All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Intel Extreme Masters San Jose, USA Stage 1 qualifiers. That was a mouthful and a half. As we get into our second series of the night, it's going to be Starlord from our previous series going up against a very, very familiar fellow in QXC.
It's a nice little bit of Terran versus Terran with Overgrowth starting us off for this series. And TvT has a lot to live up to. It's a great matchup, lots of strategic play. And, well, Starlord, he went for a Thor drop in his previous series. Don't think we'll be seeing that done again.
No, probably not. He's going to have to take this one a bit more seriously. So let's get into it. Game number 1 now on Overgrowth to start things off in this best of 3. As we have spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner, it is our purple Terran representing Complexity. As always, it seems like forever he's been on Complexity. It is QXC. And up to the top right-hand corner, we have our green Terran. It is Starlord from our previous series against Nani.
Now, I don't have an official stat on this, but I feel like Overgrowth is just the most popular map to have game 1 on in a series. It's just... Someone will have a stat on that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think overall in this season, if you do look at how many best of 3s have started on this map, you'd be right. But especially in the Korean scene in this map pool nowadays, King Sejong Station is oftentimes the first map in a series. We saw a lot of it in the recent Korean qualifiers, and we see it in a lot in the general in the Korean scene. But yeah, Overgrowth has been there for a long time. I think it's had its day though. Very soon. I think it's on its way out. So
all good things must come to an end.
I guess so. I'm personally a little bit bored of playing Overgrowth nowadays, but
the season 4 maps bring back old memories.
Oh geez, yeah.
Do you know what Ahana means?
Oh god. You know what? I'm really worried that Steps of War isn't going to make it, man. I'm really worried right now.
My hope was for Zelnaga Cabins.
I don't understand people that voted Akalon Wastes. What is wrong with these people? And then people will say to me, why did you vote Steps of War? And it's like, because I'm a huge douchebag, but that's the only reason I voted for it. It's going to be great if it's there.
I liked Akalon Wastes up until just that one game. That one game will make me forever scared of that map.
I can understand that, yeah.
But yeah, in terms of this game, both players opening with the Reaper, so mirror builds in a mirror matchup for the moment. That keeps things nice and steady, actually. And really, a lot of transitions can come through this. It's going to be interesting to see if the Reapers do end up meeting.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. I'm pretty sure neither opened up gas first, right? They both went barracks then into gas, considering the timing of this Reaper. I kind of dozed out and dazed off a little bit there at the beginning of this series, but
no, I
think
think
of this game.
Did Complexity open? Did QXE actually open gas first? I'm looking at his gas cannon where he spent money.
Well, it's just the fact that he's actually put his gas into the second. Well, whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is that he's actually going for his command center off the back of all of this, using his Reaper a bit more. Well, I mean, both of them are going to have to use it defensively from here on out because, well, Starlord did spot that what was going on in his opponent's base, but QXE didn't. So he's being a little bit cautious with his Reaper, just protecting his more greedy opening because his command center's on spot.
And in terms of how greedy that command center is, it's nothing insane. It's about 15, 20 seconds or so. So everything really looking quite safe between these two. The work accounts, obviously, exactly the same for the moment. So overall, wait for variation.
Yeah, overall, though, I think QXE's build is just a little bit more polished with how he's executing it. Because these two Reapers, I don't think Starlord's going to get anything done with the second Reaper especially, you know? There should be 4 Marines out by the time these Reapers look to threaten. Maybe they'll get there just a little bit ahead of the second 2 Marines on the way.
It's going to be close. If they did actually go straight up, they would have had a little bit of an option to have some fun. We'll get 1 SCV now, but 1 SCV for the additional Reaper's a bit of a pain, and actually, QXE might be able to match that. Yeah,
if he gets that would be nice. He may be controlling his Reapers down at the bottom, so at least he gets an SCV himself, and then loses a Reaper. So the thing is, QXE, in almost every single regard right now, is ahead in terms of this build. He's got his Widow Mines on the way, he's got his Starport on the way, so he certainly has a lot of options here. Compared to Starlord, who's going to have to really just play this a little bit slower.
And all in all, the Reaper for QXE being in the main base is just a little irritating. It's taking up a bit of attention, finally goes down, but it got a full scout, full information. Am I correct in thinking that actually not full vision was grabbed by Starlord of the timing of the Starport?
I don't know. He's not really seen too much more into it, apart from the fact that it was that gas opener. So for now, QXE is playing with more information, mining from his natural base. The Starport is kind of slow here for Starlord, whilst QXE's build and units are lining up really nicely. Cloak's already on the way. So ideally, Starlord would like to maybe eke out a Viking if he thinks his opponent's going to be going very, very aggressive.
Of course, this is reflected by the resources. 625 minerals banked up at the moment for Starlord, whereas QXE is keeping that a lot lower, so he's able to spend his money a lot more efficiently, getting more out on the field, getting a small supply lead, only 9 supply. Also, just creeping slightly up in the SCV count, 31 to 26, thanks to that earlier command center, which may not sound like much, but add in the earlier mule as well, and that's a fairly big chunk of income that QXE has available to use.
And also, you know, QXE at the front spotted quite a lot of Hellions, so he's erecting a wall in front of his base pretty fast here, just to make sure that no run-bys can actually occur, whilst little bits of damage are attempted at least. That Banshee is going to be a real pain, though, a real pain. Yes, there was a Viking out. Did he get...
Wait, there is 1 Viking and 4 Marines for Starlord. Where the Viking moving out, though.
I'm surprised it's moving out. I'm not sure what it would be doing moving out. Like, maybe trying to intercept a Banshee that was going down to the bottom right-hand corner, but if this Banshee wants, it can kill all of these Marines off and then just continue on with the SCVs. But you'll just go for the SCVs for now.
Well, there's a couple already weakened up. Of course, those Marines aren't going to be too much of a threat either, plus nothing in production that can actually deal with it at the moment for Starlord. QXE is going to get a fair few kills here, forcing back a lot of units, actually. Yeah,
that Viking is the most important part of all of this. And is going to cloak up. Doesn't have energy for scans right now. Dropped a mule a little bit ago. But this is a good Banshee. 9 kills already. Getting a lot of Marines as well. So a follow-up push can be pretty painful if he's killed off a lot of the workers. But of course, I mean, Starlord during all of this with his extra factory was looking for some kind of mech play with the blue flame going on. So quite a kind of, I want to say, a 4GG-esque kind of build coming out of Starlord with a mass amount of Hellions, but I don't know if it'll matter in the end because he's just going to have so few such a small army against what QXC has.
The second Banshee coming in as well, still being irritating. There is a missile turret now up at the natural base. The main base doesn't actually have one for now. The Viking going to be looking to get a little bit of poke damage off, but all in all, if we look at the workers lost tab, this is actually getting pretty crazy. 18 workers have been killed by QXC's Banshee. Resources lost-wise, 1,600 to 750 in favor of QXC. Add in the better income.
Oh,
he's in a nice spot. Oh no, the tech lab.
Yeah, if he gets blue flame as well, that's really going to cause a lot of problems against this bio play. He needs blue flame to really start dealing with this kind of army. If he's going to, he needs any advantage he can get to deal with the army that will eventually hit him here from QXC because he's been macroing up so nicely.
Oh, it's going to get taken down.
That's really sad.
That really hurts. In terms of the build, these Banshee are just being incredibly irritating, but actually dealing a fair amount of damage. They should just be there poking, but in reality, it's getting a lot more. 20 SCVs killed, 3 Hellions, 4 Marines, and 2 Reapers, all taken down for QXC, just in such a nice position.
Yeah, even saving one of the Banshees there, that comes back. The Vikings should actually be able to hunt that down if they were heading on the same trajectory as they did on the way out. But for the Hellions now, really kind of stuck in a rut. They don't have the blue flame that would be so useful here against this army.
And the lack of the blue flame is a huge damage hit. Look at the just sheer volume of Hellions here. 13 of them. They are the ground army for Starlord at the moment. Missing out on blue flame is going to be quite devastating. Adding QXE, having that third command center already floating across, that puts him a base up on his opponent. And the worker count, 59 to 35, Kalaris.
Yeah, it's really hurting him at this point for Starlord. Again, you know, similar to what we saw in the previous series of Diamond versus Master, this is Master versus Grandmaster and upwards in QXE, who is one of the best USA players. So, trying to catch up with his third command center as well. He really needs this blue flame to finish up before a push comes, but QXC could just keep going with this kind of army.
It's the siege tanks. They're going to be one of the biggest issues for Starlord once they get in a good siege position. Those 15 Hellions aren't really going to be able to combat it, and there's only one tank down at the moment for Starlord. How do you stop it? You just can't really.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point that you raised because of course he has air superiority with 5 Vikings. That's quite nice to have. But if you don't have the volume of tanks to complement it behind it, what are you supposed to do? The Marines are going to fall behind the siege tanks here. and any kind of extra volley would help out here on these Hellions. Nice volley from the Siege Tank and Hellions actually to kill off just a few units there, but QXC can continue this pressure on. He has such power behind this army.
It was nice control there by Starlord, though, making sure he didn't go into that Siege Tank range, using the vision from the Vikings just to keep himself safe. But there's a couple of volleys coming through.
Ouch.
Hellions just melting.
Yeah, this isn't going so well just yet. Behind this, QXC is adding on another command center in on spot again, and even getting out more barracks just to continue on this production. Nice volley there on that bio. Killed off quite a few of those Marines. But these siege tanks, I mean, they're not only pressuring forward, even losing a Viking, they're not even just pressuring forward, they're actually cutting off the third base in reality. So Starlord is being a little bit starved here with just this one siege tank alone covering this spot.
QXE is mining nearly 1,000 more minerals per minute, double the gas. That all adds up being a very, very strong economic advantage. And with reinforcements coming across, as well as the 60 supply advantage, it's going to get difficult for Starlord. The good news for Starlord, however, is he does now have Blue Flame. He also has a couple more siege tanks down, so it would be a bit harder for QXE to come straight through. Trying to run those Hellions across.
Looking for a counter, but as he goes to the third base, he's going to run into a supply depot wall down there, because QXE has already planned ahead. So, unfortunately for QXE, if he had air superiority, he could probably bust this location, but because he doesn't, he has to play the game a little bit slower from here.
But again, slow. Unless he just runs in this army. He could go for that.
He could just go and try and kill tanks, but it didn't really work. And the Hellions at the back really not finding where they wanted to. Running, they didn't even try and run into that wall. But now he sees the fourth command center, and he's got to be reeling from that. I mean, QXC is so far ahead in terms of the macro.
He's nearly maxed out at the end of the day, and with that, he's going to get into just a very strong position. He's already containing his opponent beautifully. The third command center, is it even built? Yes, it is. Okay, so Starlord does have the third CC. Gonna float it down to the fourth location, but it may not get there because as now QXE moves in, he dismantles those tanks. SCV's trying to be pulled, but it is not going to be enough. QXE with a big macro lead takes game number 1.
Yeah, pretty clean cut again from QXC. I just got the better end of the builds early on, used his build, even just, again, if you put gas into things like 2 Reapers and you slow your build down like that, you are running the risk of being hit by... But then, the economy management wasn't exactly pristine from Starlord during all of that, and QXC is QXC.
Again, I kind of look at that as the reverse of the first series of the night, where actually there was a big loss. It was 3 Banshee in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, he got 3 Banshees out in the end.
3 Banshees killed off 20 SCVs. They prevented Blue Flame coming down, a big hindrance to the build that Starlord was looking for. And if you take that kind of knock early on up against someone of QXC's caliber, recovering from it is gonna need a bit of a miracle. So if you can avoid that the second game, I think it'll be a lot closer. Yeah.
Just, again, iron things out. Make sure he'll be hunkered down and good to go. Anyway, Catalina is going to be our next map between these two. And I'm expecting to see some gas first versus gas first on a map like this.
Yep.
It can be very, very powerful. And also, depending on where you spawn, sometimes you don't want the game to go really, really long because of how much airspace the bottom right-hand corner has on it. And poor Starlord has got a little bit unlucky with those spawns. So let's jump into game number 2, as we have spawning up to the top right-hand corner. It's our purple Terran representing complexity. It is QXC. And down to the bottom right, unfortunately for him, it is our green Terran. It's Starlord. And as I said before, the amount of airspace behind all of this, I mean, Sean goes on about it a lot. And it's an important thing because it's so susceptible to punishment. Dealing with that later on is difficult. So normally, if you're down there, you might want to end the game fast. You don't want to be going up against it later on.
Or you can sit there even and look at that airplay from other ways. Look at the damage QXE was able to do in game number 1 with those Banshee. If he's got all of that room around there as well, it becomes even more difficult to stop them. But we'll wait and see what they decide to go for.
I think Starlord, even considering how we saw QXE going up to a Banshee play in that game 1, Starlord going for Viking, then using the extra production later on for a Raven, so Viking-Raven combination, could be really, really nice for Starlord. But, well, QXC has already gone for gas first, as has Starlord. So, yeah, I would really love to see Starlord go to the Viking-Raven play. I think that would work out pretty nicely. It's
a very strong opening, and it's got just so much potential to play beautifully well. It'll be good to see it, and I think we may be getting that. Meanwhile, from QXC, I think he can be a little bit greedy because he did play very solid in that first game. He was just keeping things going. I like the pressuring that he did in that first game, and it's one of the areas which, if you had to sit me down and say, Maddles, what's the difference between sort of a GM, a pro player, and a Masters player? It's the multitasking. That's where you see just them start pulling ahead. They can keep up their macro nicely while still having good micro control, being a bit of a harassment. That's where they get advantages.
Yeah, definitely. QXC, you know, he 10 times out of 10 is going to be hitting that multitasking pretty hard against someone in Starlord's shoes. Because QXC probably goes into this series feeling very, very relaxed. I mean, if you're a GM player and someone who has been to as many tournaments as QXC, you're going to feel pretty confident going up against someone like Starlord. And right now, his build is looking to take a trajectory of a bit of more of an aggressive stance once again. I mean, Starlord's keeping up with him, which is the nice thing, because he didn't go for a Reaper. He hasn't put gas into 2 Reapers that then have slowed his build down as a whole. So this could play out much better for Starlord in the earlier stages.
It's just little things which you've got to keep an eye on. The fact that QXE has got his factory down about 6-7 seconds quicker. It doesn't sound like much, but if you keep getting those little advantages on your build throughout, suddenly that starts compounding into being something that's very noticeable in the later stages. But second gas is coming on down now, very similar times. Again, QXE just a little bit ahead on that. And also starting up his starboard just a fraction of a second earlier.
Yeah, and he hid the idea of that second gas ever being taken just as soon as that SCV died. He switches things on around. And again, you know, what I was saying before at the very beginning, we saw how much those Banshees did before for QXE. Starlord, if he goes to Viking then Raven, then he's reacting to the idea from game 1 transitioning over to game number 2. And I would love to see that from Starlord.
So, with those starports finishing up, this is where we're going to get the tell of what kind of plan they've got. Both going to be switching them over onto those tech labs. And the big question is, do we get a Viking out first from either?
Well, we'll find out in just a little bit. It's going to be Cloak, actually. So Starlord looks to take the initiative as well. But there's already the Cloak Banshee on the way here for QXC. And he starts Cloak as well. So this gets really weird. This is just... Yep. The Banshees just could cross through different paths, not see one another, and then all hell could break loose.
We don't mind coming on down from Starlord as well. Okay, that's a nice addition, because if he has that in a nice spot, he can take down a Banshee from QXC. Maybe trying to predict that. It'll also be interesting to see if both continue with the Banshee production, or if one or both of them then starts up a Viking and a Raven, which is certainly a possibility.
There's something a lot of Terrans don't do as well, Maddles, which is if you position this Widow Mine right behind the refinery, then it's relatively hidden. So I'd be interested to see where it actually puts this Widow Mine. He's going to put it next to the refinery. So as it flies towards it, there will be the reveal, and if you're quick like QXE, you can turn back. But Banshees have both seen one another, so at least he knows the angle it's coming from. And look at this, QXE is already going for a Raven, so he was anticipating his opponent going for a Banshee from the very beginning anyway. This
Widow Mine could be such a big player for Starlord right now. The Banshee coming on in. QXE does see it, but it gets the connection first. No pressure being done there, but with the Raven coming out now for QXE and a lot of Marines, it's going to be a little bit difficult for Starlord to do anything either.
Well, at least he gets a few Marines. I mean, it's not too bad. And has to pull away, though, now. Because that does cause a few problems, does the Raven.
Ooh, being a little bit cheeky, moving in to try and get another kill. Raven not able to finish off the Banshee. So, overall in resources lost. Better trade there, actually, for Starlord.
Did he get the Banshee in the end, or did it go home? It went completely home. Okay, yeah, so... That's fine, that's fine. Noticeably, though, Starlord hasn't started a second command center, and he's actually pushing out with this first siege tank. So he's looking to really try and seize the initiative himself. And this comes back to the idea of what I was saying before about this map and about the spawning positions. It can be a little bit difficult for Starlord here to really gain some traction on the later stages of the game.
One concern I have for Starlord with that move out is he did unfortunately get a little bit of a supply block, which has quite delayed his second Viking, which he'll need just to force back the Raven. And also pick off medevacs and stuff. So slightly weaker than he may have liked to have been. QXE, though, has to be cautious with this medevac moving forward. The Viking sees it, but QXE should have plenty of time to react.
Yeah, this could end up going really wrong, though. He has to be very careful about the army barreling down on him. Get out of there. But he has to be careful with his medevac, because the Marines... Whew, that Viking did so much damage to that medevac. And now this gets a little bit treacherous here for QXE, because this, I mean, regardless of what level of play you are, this is pretty annoying.
QXE just pulling backwards. He's got a siege tank. He can cover the ramp. Viking will pick off the Banshee. That's a nice hit immediately. And his second medevac also managed to sneak on by and get those Marines safely home.
Throwing down an extra bunker here, so Starlord's really putting on the pressure. Thankfully for QXE, as he said, the 2 siege tanks being out is going to help him a whole lot during this. And Command Center decides to already fly over to that location, but I don't think he fully understands that this contain is very much a reality.
This is a brave Command Center.
It really is.
Turn back, Command Center. That is not, it's not a good neighborhood right now.
Oh well.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll mosey on back for a little while. Command Center does save itself. But this is a strong contain. He has to poke forwards with the medevac to use it as spotting to really see what's going on. But he doesn't want to lose that Viking to Starlord. If he does lose that Viking, then that is bad news bears.
Was able to take out one of QXE's tanks, which of course is very nice. The big advantage comes from Starlord having the high ground vision and the air superiority. If QXE is able to eradicate that, then suddenly that container is nowhere near as scary. You move the siege tanks to the side, and then it's only Scantons granting the vision, and you're going to win the fight. So, yeah, that's going to be QXE's aim.
Looks like Starlord may end up giving this up in the end, because overall it's very difficult to stand out here for a long, long time. Your opponent's reinforcement point is much, much closer to yours. And that really spells the biggest story in the Vikings. If you lose that first Viking here for Starlord, whilst your opponent has more at the front, it can be a bit difficult to continue that on. So decides to pull away after getting his command center. But he knows that his opponent had a command center for a little bit longer than him after spotting it. So he had to play that kind of game to catch up overall.
Oh, did that Widow Mine just become a little bit of a hero? No, just killed one
Got
thing.
something, but not much.
Okay, so QXE is ahead in supply by a bit, but
Ooh, there's going to be some auto harass maybe down here.
he's got a medevac there as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun to see where this goes. Missile turret in position. There's also a siege tank just north of the main command center, but down come the auto turrets. They're going to be very annoying to deal with.
Yeah, and they tank so much. So much. Look at the siege tank trying to like get rid of these, but his engineering bay is already going to die off, and that would slow down any kind of upgrades that he would be going for. But thankfully for Starlord, he was going mech anyway, so yeah, that's it's not really going to matter about the upgrades there.
It's quite a bit of lost mining time. That medevac boosting away straight into a missile turret. That was some bad luck, but able to just get out.
That was really close. At least he can get all these units out. And he also saved the Raven right at the back somehow, but the Vikings are just going to stick around there. They're like, wait a minute, where did you go? A Raven for 2 Viking, that would be sick. That would be really nice if he could get that.
He's going to go and check, actually, just see what may be waiting around there. There's so much dead space here, and he's actually going to find it. That he can see.
What the?
Can he? What?
All
what?
right, then.
It's there.
Look how there. Look how close it is. That's ridiculous. Oh. It even does a little spin.
It even does a little spin. You nearly got me.
Oh, that's really, really sad. Oh, poor Starlord, he can't catch a break. Well, at least he's taking his third command center way quicker than what we're seeing from QXE here. So if he can...
QXE doesn't have a third command center, so that's a big advantage for Starlord potentially. He is down in workers, but a third mule will do something to make up for that. Important for him. But it's up to really QXE now, who is now just moving his army a little bit.
I can't believe. Oh my god, and look how when he moves the Raven. The Vikings have just left and the Raven starts moving back as well. This is the luckiest little Raven. Oh, wow.
It's all that dead space behind. You said at the start.
Yeah, it's true.
It's so important.
That Raven should have died.
It's a nice little beach down there as well. You can have a good little holiday behind the bases.
Lots of turrets are going to continue to be annoying, even scratching a little bit of the paint off of that siege tank. And doing some damage to the supply depots overall. But this is a big army. It's 78 army supply against 60. But the siege tank line shouldn't be broken too easily from QXC.
He's going to skirt around a lot of those siege tanks, actually. And one of the problems for Starlord is that he's having to protect a very large area of the map with actually not that many siege tanks. He's only got... Okay, no, he does have 12, so he does have quite a few, but it's spread over a very large area, nonetheless.
He's dropping down a sensor tower, but if this army pushes in just before that sensor tower finishes, it's all going to be in vain, because scans keep going down, and he sees all the siege tanks in location. He's actually going to... What is he doing? I thought he was going to drop there with just 3 medevacs, and I'm like, maybe that's not going to work out, QXE. But he's slowly pushing down this avenue, and now that sensor tower's finished, it reveals a whole lot of, oops, why is this here?
that sense tower is really important. It's going to allow Starlord to reposition as required to defend against this. It definitely takes out the element of surprise for QXC.
Yeah, that could have been disastrous if that had continued on. But again, Starlord had spread his tanks really, really well over the area that he was defending, as you were mentioning. Yes, there is a lot of space, but he was covering it good. So that's nice to see from him. And for now, QXC a little bit supply blocked here. Well, he really wants to get out of that so he can bump out a few more units.
Scans still coming on down, just trying to catch any of the tanks that may be attempting to reposition. But big drop coming on in. Hero Barracks. Hero Barracks sees all. But the trouble is, can Starlord actually reposition to do anything about it? 2 tanks are there. Yeah,
and this is the big problem, as I was saying before. I mean, creating a missile turret ring on this map with this much space around your main base, how do you actually create it? You have to have so many missile turrets. So this is doing enough damage to warrant its cost, getting some siege tanks, keeping the meching player down, and behind all this is transitioning onto a few starports. So QXC is playing this out for the long game, because he can, because he has the more favorable position now after he's established his 3rd base again.
Oh, another little drop coming down. Picking off a couple of these tanks is very nicely done. 2 tanks for 1 medevac full of Marines. That's a nice trade.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. He's even lost less here than Starlord. But you've got to remember, Starlord has been mining from this 3rd base a bit longer. So QXC just going to sit pretty on this right-hand side and force his opponent to be a little bit under pressure for a while.
Looking around now, where are they planning on going? Okay, so looking at the starport count, because that's obviously the late game plan for both of them. We've already got the 3 down at the moment for QXE, whereas Starlord just has 1 for the moment, but does have a 2nd in production. The late game TvT is all about the starports, but very, very expensive late game army.
See some of these siege tanks and unfortunately send some Marines forwards to their death. And QXC was supply blocked for a little while longer there at 161, and then he's now freed that up nicely. But there was a small drop over here, really didn't do massive amounts. Workers killed 23 off by the previous drops that have gone down, and QXC now looking to pincer, really. There aren't actually that many siege tanks at the 3rd base. This bio army could do something if he goes straight in, but he might just drop into the main.
Dropping into the main would be a bit difficult. There is a couple of missile turrets up, but as you previously said, there's a huge area. Could try and drop just directly onto the tanks to at least minimize some of that damage coming on through. But seeing the missile turrets, a couple of those get taken down, but immediately the siege tank count quickly evaporating. Only 1 remaining. That may not even stay up much longer.
Or you might lose a lot of these Vikings actually as well against this bio. So this isn't a really good trade at all here for Starlord. Loses the majority of his mining at his 3rd base too. And losing all of those Vikings when your opponent is transitioning onto some starport play is really a big blow here for Starlord.
It'll be interesting to see whether or not Starlord does continue the production of Vikings off the back of this. And indeed he is. 2 more are in production as well as a Banshee. So he is aware of that potential danger and is adapting his build to it. Hidden base coming down from QXE here.
And Fusion Core. Let's go. All right, then.
Battle Cruisers for the win. Do we get to do the dance?
I mean, we could do. I don't think people would really see it, though. But so it would all be in vain. But he keeps poking forwards here with this little Banshee. And that's a really nice addition to this army for Starlord. But the Marines should be able to protect if he keeps on his toes.
Little edging forward now. That Banshee just got to be very, very careful. Does bait the Marines into the siege tank line, though, and that causes a small couple of shots out.
So QXC right now has all the cards in his hand. It's going to be difficult for him to deal with, and there's the scan, there's the kill. Didn't even lose that many Marines during all of that. This is looking more and more problematic for Starlord again, who is right now pretty heavily contained and is losing out on the base battle thoroughly.
Yeah, QXE taking that base to the 10 o'clock position is just really nice. It's a long way out of position. It's not going to get scouted, and even just for a muling base, that's going to be very, very helpful. But QXE, again, pincer movement.
If he hits this 3rd again, it's actually going to evaporate. Oh, look at the air army he has as well. 131 army supply against 94 units we have. He still even has the Viking advantage because of that small skirmish at the 3rd before. So this is a brilliant move by QXE.
He's just going to run straight into those 3 tanks. Doesn't really have too much to worry about, but again, the Viking count is better for QXC. He's also got a couple of Marines on the ground helping on out there, so winning the air battle nicely. Forward come the Banshees with the safety brought from that and just picks apart the tanks.
The Viking numbers actually gone in favor of Starlord during all of that. Not exactly sure why, but that has leave now with the scan going down, it's very important these Vikings finish off their work because killing these Banshees is of such importance. But again, the problem is for Starlord is that even though he traded away and kind of got away with not dying here, he doesn't have the economy to keep up with QXC.
Just to clarify, the reason the Vikings went down is because Starlord actually has the +2 vehicle and ship weapon upgrade to just the +1 from QXC.
You've actually got a really good point there.
That made up for the slight numbers advantage for QXC there. So good little move by Starlord there, staying up in upgrades.
Yeah, good point. Good point, Maddles. I wasn't really paying attention to the upgrades. As he's going to have to move back away from this. Those Vikings and Banshees staying alive here for Starlord.
Wow, Colaris, look at the incomes.
I'm really scared to press Control I. Okay, there we go. There's battle cruisers on the way. You can afford them. This is going to be a tall order for Starlord. He's got a lot of Vikings, though, to be fair. As you mentioned, +2 weapons.
My concern just does come by the double mineral and double gas income for QXC over his opponent. That is a hefty amount to try and level out. Again, another hit squad of mainly Marauders coming in towards his third. And where are the tanks?
This is going to take a lot of damage. Even if this lifted off now, it would end up dying. Good job there by QXC to get that. Just has to run away now. And again, you've got to consider the position, the spawning positions all in all. If you think about where QXC set up his initial force down to this bottom left-hand side, he really restricted a 4th base from ever happening. In Starlord's position, are you going to take a 4th base up here towards your opponent where he can drop even quicker? Probably not. So QXC has been taking advantage of Starlord for quite a while in this game.
Talking of drops, we've got them coming back in again, and this Raven from earlier is still alive somehow. This is going to start hitting the production, and of course, nothing defending here. The big problem is the fact that the 3rd base is down now. The income for Starlord is next to non-existent, and it's getting such a problem for him.
Yeah, he's really putting all of his hopes on this like one final air force, but the problem for him, he doesn't know that there's a fusion core as well as battle cruisers actually banking up behind all of it. So, I mean, what are you supposed to do? This army is now moving out, and there are battle cruisers in this with Yamato Cannon about to finish.
That's where things start getting very scary. And to be honest, the Viking count is still on an advantage. 12-8 in advantage of Starlord. The upgrades are still there for Starlord too. He's got the +2 over the +1 upgrade for them. But second he sees the battle cruisers, we're not going to get one of those Yamato cannons on stream. But GG and a 2-0 for QXC.
Valiantly fought by Starlord overall there in that second game. He lasted a bit longer. His opening was better against what QXC was doing. But QXC shows that he's one of the best players in this qualifier. And moving on to the round of 8, he's now basically 1 win away from advancing on to tomorrow.
He's going to be facing off either against Grav Chase or Gosu User, actually, in that quarterfinal game. So that could be a very interesting one. Actually,
that'll be a really sick quarterfinal game. QXC versus Gosu User. Because, again, only one of them can advance.
Yep.
And it's only a single elimination bracket. So there's some pretty good games coming up, I think.
There are. A couple of other people have gone through. Jon Snow has been able to advance into the round of 16. I don't know how they're getting on yet. Katz was able to beat Snitzel. So he is the other person joining QXC in the quarterfinals at the moment.
Awesome stuff. All right, guys, we're going to go to a short break, and then when we're back, maybe this will be a little bit of a prolonged break because we're searching for games, basically. But when we find one, we'll have more StarCraft action from the Intel Extreme Masters San Jose qualifiers for the USA champion.